Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today, Omega Healthcare Investors Inc. OHI just filed their latest 8K report, and I am seeing some interesting updates on who actually owns the company. Quick note, this is not financial advice, just my take on public filings for educational purposes. The company held its annual meeting and also provided a crucial update on major shareholder ownership changes. This report covers developments around June of 2026. It primarily details the outcomes of Omega Healthcare Investors 2026 annual meeting of stockholders. First up was the election of directors. All the director nominees were re-elected. Looking at the votes, for example, Kapila K. Anand, she received over 207 million votes for her election, with just over 6 million votes against. This shows pretty strong support from the shareholders for the current board. The other directors also saw similar overwhelming support, which is typical for established companies. Next, the company sought to ratify the selection of Ernst & Young LLP as their independent auditors for 2026. This was also approved overwhelmingly with over 240 million votes for, and about 15 million against. This is pretty standard procedure. Companies need auditors to check their books, and shareholders usually approve whoever management recommends. It signals confidence in the auditing process. Then came the advisory vote on executive compensation, often called a say-on-pay vote. Here, shareholders also approved the compensation for the executives, with about 203 million votes for, and just over 10 million against. This is a positive signal that shareholders generally agree with how the executives are being paid, at least for now. Now, the really interesting part of this filing is the update on who owns significant chunks of Omega Healthcare Investors. The company is letting us know about changes in beneficial ownership of its common stock by directors, executive officers, and major shareholders. The filing highlights updates based on recent Schedule 13G filings. BlackRock Inc., a massive asset manager, is listed as owning 31,867,200 shares, which is about 10.7% of the company's outstanding stock. This is a significant stake, and BlackRock is a powerful player in the market. If BlackRock were to sell a large portion of these shares, it could put downward pressure on the stock price. Then we have Vanguard Portfolio Management. They hold 27,160,324 shares, representing about 9.1% of the company. Vanguard is another giant in the investment world, and their holdings often reflect broad market trends. Following them is Vanguard Capital Management, with 15,689,615 shares, or 5.3% of the company. It is interesting to see two different Vanguard entities listed, especially after the company mentioned that the Vanguard Group previously filed an amendment stating they no longer had beneficial ownership due to an internal realignment. This update suggests that while the main Vanguard Group might have restructured, its affiliated entities are still significant holders. It's like a parent company divvying up its ownership to different arms, but the overall influence remains. As of the 8th of April 2026, Omega Healthcare Investors had approximately 297,799,835 shares of common stock outstanding. This is the total number of shares that exist. The report also notes there are about 16.3 million common stock equivalents, like operating partnership units, also outstanding. These equivalents can be converted into common stock, so they are important to consider when looking at the true ownership picture. This detail about sole voting power and sole dispositive power means these entities have the final say on how these shares vote and can decide whether to sell them. It's a level of control that gives them significant influence. Similarly, BlackRock has substantial voting and dispositive power over its holdings. When you see these large institutional holders like BlackRock and Vanguard, it generally adds a layer of stability, as they are typically long-term investors. However, their collective selling could significantly impact the stock. Looking at the broader context, Omega Healthcare Investors OHI is a healthcare facilities REIT, a real estate investment trust. They own and manage healthcare properties. Given the recent news mentioning Omega Healthcare Investors continues losses for 7 straight sessions, alongside Omega Healthcare Investors rises as analysts lift price targets. There seems to be some conflicting signals in the market. This filing helps clarify the ownership structure, which is a key factor for investors to understand. The fact that these major institutions remain significant holders after a restructuring by the Vanguard Group suggests they still see value in OHI despite potential short-term volatility. What I am really watching is how these large institutional holdings might influence the stock price, especially with analysts having differing views. The clear election results and auditor ratification show operational stability, but the ownership update is critical for understanding potential market movements. The risk I am watching is any large institutional sell-off. which could be signaled by future filings, my biggest concern is the underlying operational performance of the healthcare facilities themselves, which isn't directly detailed here, but impacts the long-term health of OHI. Oh, and the research tools I actually use are linked in the description. They help keep this channel going. That is my take. Stay decoded. Like, comment, subscribe, and join our Discord for more insights.